Hi there, this is Savannah Faye, and I decided to go live for this one because this is happening in real time, and it's like an important topic, and I feel it on my spirit to talk about it and share about this. I just started reading a new book today. I have it right here. It's backwards for you, but it says "The Man the Moment Demands." And what's so interesting to me is that I am not a man. And yet somehow it's resonating with me a lot. It's resonating a lot with my experience to the point that it brought up a lot for me just reading the first 3 chapters. The first 2 chapters are introductory, and the 3rd chapter is where he starts. The author is Jason Wilson. He started talking about the warrior archetype or part of a man. I just went into this book thinking reading it out of curiosity. There were many different things that brought me to even reading it, like a chain of events, but mostly I bought it so that I could gift it to a man, that I thought would benefit. But then I thought, well, before I gift it, I would love to read it myself, since I purchased it, then I can know what's in there, and I figured it would allow me to better, facilitate, a space where others could also feel, seen, and like all of them is welcome to be experienced, so it's I thought it was valuable information, so I started to read it, and a lot of the stuff he was talking about in there, I was like, this is weirdly relatable, what's happening? And I was surprised how much he talks about, suicide rates in men, how it's 3 times higher than in women. And, in the warrior part, he talks about, I took a lot of notes on it, and I wanted to do, I want to do a review when I'm done with the book. But I just felt definitely called to share this because I had a visceral experience from this. He talks a lot about the whole, if a man's feeling suicidal and they're suffering in silence, and telling them about reaching out for help, and you don't have to do it alone, right? And how there's a lot of men where they're teetering on the edge of just feeling they're gonna kill themselves because they can't escape this life that just feels so unfulfilling, and they're not even really living, and I gotta admit, I just spent the last couple hours just processing so many triggers around all of this, because even though I'm not a guy, I spent the last year experiencing this, where there were times where I really was genuinely on that edge, and I wasn't telling people, and I wasn't asking for help. And he had there's something he mentions in the 3rd chapter about switching on the light. It's switching the light switch. And I feel like that's what I did at New Year's, like New Year's Eve, and like the week or two like coming up to New Year's, I was like preparing myself for this like light switch, and like part of that was me solidifying like a commitment to being alive and a commitment to my life and living it, and making that commitment like a trade almost that was worthy, because like I found the worthiness in committing to something that was of value to me, that made me feel like it would be livable. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what he talks about in his book so far. He's saying like these people who are experiencing this, they're like not really living. You know, it's not that they're tired of living, it's they're tired of not living. And yeah, the chapter is called like the warrior. It's about that warrior archetype. And I don't know, I think I just have that like spiritual warrior like essence to me, like in the most like just down to earth humble way I could say it. Like but what's interesting is that like it still is challenging. So just reading these chapters, reading it brought up so much for me that I actually like tonight I was experiencing it again. And in this new year, after I like went through like the final like kind of like turning points coming out of 2024, this year I would say I'm feeling like 80% better. If I were to be realistic, I would say 80%. But there's still like hard days, and that's why I'm literally coming on here to talk about it, because it's just crazy to think about how many people are experiencing this. Like, not could be, but are. Because I was at, like, I already mentioned it in another video, but part of what consolidated this lesson for me, one of the experiences was being at a family friend's house when they got news about like a young man who had killed himself earlier that day. And nobody saw it coming. Nobody saw it coming. And so that's what like he mentions in the book. Like, I don't know how to really like posture that. It's like there are signs. There are totally signs. But at the same time, like, there's this stigma there where there's definitely a feeling like you have to hide it. And like, it's like, if you're strong enough to hide it, you should. Otherwise, like, that's kind of how it at least feels to me. It's like I can make it through this, and if I don't, I'll like take the other path. Like, at least that was the way it felt in the past, and just like go out the easiest way possible, like the path of least resistance. But what pulls me out of it is prayer. And this year it's been prayer every time that pulls me out of it. And I almost I imagine angel wings coming around me and holding me. And the prayer that I used tonight, something in the book that I really like is he mentions that he uses, instead of the name God, he uses Jah, and that just feels really good to me. I don't know why, but using the word God for some reason has always just seemed weird. I don't know why. So he uses Jah instead of God, and Yahuwah instead of Jesus. And I really like that. So the prayer that I did tonight was, I think it was, Jah, please hold me close to you so I can feel safe, so I can feel loved, and so I can feel peace. And I like to imagine whenever I'm feeling the lower energies and the feeling that it's a basal feeling, a very low vibration that just it's buzzing in me almost. And I pray to, and I imagine as if Yahuwah has angel wings, and I just imagine them enclosing around my body like a little cocoon, and holding me in that love and in protection. And then what I realized at a certain point, so I looked up bird wings earlier today to see the anatomy of them, and the bird wings are just like human arms. They have a humerus, radius, ulna, and phalanges at the end. And then the wings come out, the feathers of the wings come out of here. So I had a sort of small epiphany where I was like, you know what? I think I should encompass this and layer it by wrapping my arms around myself, wrapping my own wings, theoretical wings around myself, and holding myself. And I said to myself, I love you. And then I sat up and I put my hand on my higher heart, just that's just naturally kind of where I place my hand. And a lot of so in his book he has different exercises that he wants you to do throughout it, and a lot a good amount of them so far have been mirror gazing, looking into the mirror at yourself and saying different affirmations. And I just looked in the mirror and I didn't say anything, and I just let myself experience the experience. Because there's a duality to it. I always try to stay in the duality and not let myself get swept up into one reality or the other. So the duality is one is saying why does it have to be so hard? Genuinely, when I get into these feelings, the baseline is just that it is really hard for me to be on planet Earth. Like, it's hard for me. And it just, some days it just really gets to me. And tonight, like, I'm making this video really late because I couldn't sleep, because I got in bed and I just was like, this is just what happened to me tonight. You know what I'm saying? And this happens sometimes. And this year, after like switching that light and like putting intention and commitment into my life, into being and committing to staying alive. So committing to life in a way that has me consciously not allowing myself to slip into like the negative self-talk and the suicidal self-talk, because I know it's not healthy for me. And it's like that I had to make a decision about like what I really wanted and then commit to that decision, you know. And obviously I wanted to live and I wanted to pursue my passions and my purpose and make a difference in the world. So that's what I committed to. So, but in the duality, there's one that's saying, I can't do this. Like, I'm not strong enough. I can't take this anymore. Like, I just can't be here right now. And just like, even looking at like so many of the horrible things going on in the world, like that's a real feeling, you know. There's almost nowhere that like, it's so hard to imagine any part of like life where there's no conflict, you know. Like family conflict, relationships conflict, friends conflict, like misunderstandings conflict, like school, politics, the country, the world, like there's freaking, the earth is dying and sick and blah blah blah, the animals, like you know, there's just so much to be like upset about. And so that's one side of the duality. And then the other side of the duality is just looking forward and saying like, this is one of the most potent moments in my life. Like right now, this moment right now is one of the most powerful moments, because I'm feeling so much and I'm feeling so deeply. And like, I could go on to say like, I'm becoming closer to Jah, and I'm like becoming closer to myself, and I'm coming into myself, you know. And like, I'll never get this moment back. And even though it's painful, if I were dead, I wouldn't be having this experience. This experience is a gift. And thinking that way pulls me back in. It pulls me back into the duality, you know, into seeing both and like accepting both. And it's just so important to do that. And you know, part of me making these videos is me sharing how I'm feeling, and in the small way that I am with the few people that will be seeing this, I'm spreading the pressure out, and like, I'm proving to myself that I'm not afraid to let people know about this. But it's different posting like on YouTube, because most of the people that I know personally aren't looking at YouTube, at least not mine, you know. So there is this level of like separation where I don't feel like I'm expressing like my heart to the people in my daily life who are gonna know me. But at the same time, I like would invite them to, you know, watch it. I've like shared it, but hi. But either way, mostly I'm just sharing this because I really hope it can make a difference in someone's life if someone else is struggling with this. Like, I genuinely, like, that's, like, the most important thing, just because there's so many people going through this, and just from reading this book, I'm like, holy crow. Like, this really is a freaking thing that people are going through. Like, it must be a lot of people for him to put this in his book so much. And, like, he really thinks it's a problem. Like, he's really in this book, like, telling people, like, please, like, reach out for help. Don't commit suicide. Like, and, yeah, that's huge. So I think my homework going forward is to start, like, telling people, just like in my daily life, how I've been, like, what's going on, and not being so quick to just not do that. I feel like I'm the classic representation of, like, the wounded healer, where, like I'll be having a hard day, and I know a lot of other people are like this too. So many people. I'll be having a hard day. Like, I could be crying a few minutes ago, and then someone walks up to me and, like, they need presence, and they need, like, someone to be, like, in awareness with them to help them process. And I instantly drop into that, and I, like, without batting an eye, I'm there, and, like, I'm playing the role, and I love that role, and, like, that role is something that's, like, just important to me in my existence in this life. But there's something to be said and shared to, like, other people who are in a similar, like, life path as me, or at least, like, resonating with this themselves. Yeah, I think you know what I mean. It's like, I don't even know how to say it. It's like when it's like like what exactly is that just, like, instantly I set aside my own needs, and then I'm, like, there for somebody, and then they walk away not even knowing that I was ever upset, right? You know what I mean? It's just, that's a hard one. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I mean, to me, I think that just goes to show that, like, I don't even know. I couldn't say I do. Couldn't say I know that. But either way, I'm hoping that this reaches somebody who needed to hear it, at least one person, and that would be more than enough. Anybody who is, like, teetering on the edge, it's not a fun place to be. I know how you feel. It's really challenging, and it's frustrating when it feels like you don't have a handle on it. That's how I feel, at least. It's frustrating because it's like, I've been doing so well. I've been doing really well, and so then having a hard time, having a bad day, a bad night, whatever, like, it just hits a little bit harder too, because it's just like, it makes me question, like, my progress. And so what I would say to that is, it's a sign of progress, I think, because each time we heal, we're clearing a layer so that next time we can get deeper and closer to the core. This time, like, I was really able to just, like, open it up and let myself cry. And something I learned from kinesiology, I learned it from anatomy and physiology. So tear ducts, there's actually tear ducts that go directly from our eye into our nose and release into our nostrils. So I used to think that a runny nose came from, like, up in the nose area, like when you're crying, but really it doesn't. It's coming from the ducts. The tears are draining also out of your nose. So it's important when you're crying don't do that, because I feel like the reason why I did that in the past was because I thought it was like snot. It's not. It's tears, and it's a very important part of your body flushing it out. Part of the crying is the tears coming through the nose. So I implore you to just let it down, breathe it out and down. Don't try to suck it back up, because they need to be released. It's part of your tears. And something that I learned from watching one of the podcasts that I saw with Jason Wilson in it, which is how I found out about the book in the first place. He said that our body releases cortisol hormones through our tears. So like crying, you're literally, like, you're releasing energetic blocks. Sometimes you're releasing traumas that are still held in your body. You're literally releasing stress, the stress hormone. You're releasing it. And I would describe, like, the cry I just had as, like, kind of like yet another small breakthrough, because I just was allowing myself to experience the way I was feeling without being, like, attached to an outcome. It was just like, this is how I'm feeling, and I'm feeling upset that I'm feeling this, and I'm wondering why I have to feel this, and I was just holding my higher heart, and I just was, like, kind of letting the moment be beautiful in and of itself, just for exactly what it was. And, like, as you can see now, I am not upset, and I'm feeling centered, I'm feeling grounded, and yet again, I'm pouring that into my purpose. And I've been getting a lot of numerical synchronicities, and almost every single one is talking about, like, really watching your thoughts and, like, what you're thinking about the future, what you're manifesting, because, like, you are creating your future, you're creating your world through this and through your prayers. And, like, I kept getting, like, I kept seeing numbers, and every time I looked it up, it was like you need to pray to your, like, ascended masters, you need to pray to your ascended masters, and like the God energy is, like, around you. You need to pray to your ascended masters for assistance, for guidance. And I did that, and then this whole thing happened, and but so it was just like, it was like driving that through, because it kept saying that, and I was still, like, putting off praying. And it really was when I started to pray that, like, I started to, like, take steps on the healing path that led me to that cry. that I needed. And like something that Mr. Wilson talks about in the book is, he calls it like the warrior cry, because there's the stigma with men and crying. So it's like, you think of it like it's your warrior cry, which is, it's like the yell, ah! But it takes a lot of strength to let yourself cry. And it's weird to me that I resonate so much with this book, because again, I'm a girl, but but at the same time, this whole like beginning of 2025, the last about 2 months now, I've really been working on my masculine and feminine energies, and like connecting with my masculine energy. And I grew up with like a very dislocated relationship with my father, and my father himself has like a load of trauma that he has yet to even like get into. So then looking at myself as, a descendant of him and of his line actually has like a suicide in it, from his grandfather committed suicide during the Great Depression, when he lost everything he had worked for. He was from Cuba, and he managed to come to America and create like a successful business. And then when he lost everything, he killed himself, and he he left behind a wife and like children, I forget how many. But so then what I was thinking tonight is, well, my masculine energy has a lot of wounding that needs to be healed. Just even from the fact that I'm a descendant of this line, right? And I think most people, there's going to be trauma in their ancestry. Everybody's going to have that. And I feel like at this age of like life on earth, every single person is being called to work on that. Like every single person is being called to heal that, and to challenge the old paradigms and challenge themselves to step into the new paradigms. So yeah, there's the trauma in my ancestry, but also just having an insecure relationship with my father, who is the representation of masculine for me growing up, has created this distorted masculine within me. So it's really interesting. It's really interesting that this book resonates so much, because I think in my own way, in order for me to fully heal, I have to almost like heal the father wound, and like heal all of the pain and like the trauma that was passed down to me through my dad, in order for me to be able to fully embody like a healthy balance of my masculine and feminine energy, which I know a lot of people are going to resonate with, because it doesn't have to obviously be your dad or your mom. It could be a mixture of the two. Usually it is. Or it could be specifically one over the other. But yeah, and that's been hard for me, I think, because part of that is having to face it. It's like I've tried my best to like just disconnect myself from him, but at the same time, like you know, like, you have to accept, I have to accept that I am his daughter. You know, I do have his DNA, and I do have a lot of the other characteristics that he passed down. And in accepting that, like, here I am, healing it. And yeah, I had a lot of trouble crying. When I was little, I was taught not to cry because parents don't know everything, you know, when they're raising their kids. So my mom would say, you know, I'm gonna count to 3, and when I get to 3, you're gonna stop crying, or you're not gonna cry anymore. And she meant well, but she was teaching us to suppress our emotions, you know. And it took me years of working on myself to get to a point like tonight where I could acknowledge how I was feeling, be with it, and allow myself to cry. It sounds simple, it's so hard. It's so hard. And it's also simple. You know, it's also simple because it's surrender. So surrender is like the hardest and simplest thing you could ever do. You know? Yeah, and this is why I decided to, like, dedicate my life, ATM, right now, to, like, serving others, serving my community. And by community, I more than anything else mean spiritual community. You know, not necessarily like location based, like it's about who's drawn to me, specifically because our energies are like magnetic and attractive. And I'm assuming anybody who's drawn in, it's because there is something that can be healed in our connection, you know? So that's why I've dedicated myself to this, because it really felt to me like the only path for me to choose in life that would be worth committing to. And, you know, tonight is just like one more reminder of that. And I thank Jah for the opportunity to heal this, because I was literally in my kitchen praying for the opportunity to continue to grow. I've been praying for the opportunity for more experiences to guide me deeper into myself and into love. And that's exactly what I'm getting, so I'm grateful. And, you know, I also pray that, I really, really pray that all the people who need to hear this message will receive it. If not through my video, then through someone else's information that they're spreading. It's so important for people to know this. And like something he said in the book that I found really interesting, very important, was he was saying, if a strong man says, I'm tired, believe him. And he said that because when they say I'm tired, it means much more than I need sleep. Like he was saying, like, that's a cry for help. And what I can absolutely say for myself is that every time I was feeling like at my worst, like I just got out of the car and I was in the car in the parking lot before I came into the house, and I was really just sobbing, like, sometimes as far as, like, scream crying, literally begging to just be taken, like, out of this existence. And, like, that would happen, and then I would go inside, and someone would ask me, what's wrong? And I'd say, I'm just tired. Literally. So you can't make this stuff up. He's onto something there. I would say, I'm just tired, instead of saying how I feel, like, 99 out of 100 times. You know? And then someone looks at you and they say, oh, you do look tired. You know? But it's like, well, I'm exhausted to the point that I don't want to be alive anymore. You know, I'm spiritually exhausted. I'm emotionally exhausted. I'm physically exhausted. I can't sleep. I can barely eat. Like, you know, that was my experience. And it's a lot of people's experiences. So the reason why I just, like, am repeating that so I don't seem like I'm just talking for the sake of talking, it's just because, like, even if you're not experiencing that, I think it's, like, a call to action for everybody to, like, be there for the people that you love, and to, like, take the time to hold space for them, hold presence, hold awareness around them, and, like, and delve into that. You know, if you feel like in your gut something's wrong, and the person is just telling you, like, I'm just really tired, and trying to shut you out, you know, for me, it was because I'm pretty sure I was just putting it all on my own shoulders, and I was trying to protect people for like, I don't know why exactly. It's just something, I don't know. And like, a lot of people who know me would think like, if you ask, they would say I'm just, like, a very, like, happy-go-lucky person, because I portray that. And, like, and if I couldn't portray that, I would pull away and recede completely, because the idea of telling someone how I was feeling and reaching out for help, I knew that if I did that, I would break down completely and I wouldn't be able to hold it together anymore. Just stepping into, like, a teacher's office at school with the intention of doing that, I knew stepping into the office, I would start sobbing, and the idea of that was too much for me, and still I haven't really told any of the teachers at my school this stuff, you know, even though there are people who are like, I know they support me, you know, and they would want what's best for me, but it's just, like, it's so hard. So, I don't know, for somebody who is in the middle of it and they're still struggling with that, like, imagining, like, someone who was where I was in 2024, I don't know, if you know anybody where you're seeing signs like that, just, like, really take the time to just be like, hey, no, I'm serious, like, whatever's going on, like, I want to know, and I want to be here for you, and just, like, hit the pause button, be like, whatever we gotta do, we'll do it later, but let's just, like, let's take a second. But also, like, if you're the one feeling that way, then I implore you to reach out for help. You can reach out to a counselor. You can reach out to family or a close friend or a role model that you trust. And you can reach out to me. I'm going to put my website in the description. And I have a free consultation that you can schedule if you just want somebody to talk to. It's just, like, it's just not something that has to be completely held on your own, is the message. And And like, I wanted to do this, I had to do this video tonight because I literally just experienced it tonight. And even though like all the progress I've made, and like I was able to come out of it really quickly, and I think that's the important takeaway, that it lasted a much shorter amount of time versus lasting like days, weeks, months. But it still was to the level where I was thinking, genuinely, I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, I really don't know if I could do this. Like, I don't know if I can handle this. Like, man, is this tough? And, but it's like what he says in the book, the light switch thing. Because I flipped my light switch, like, choosing to come out of, like, sitting in that darkness with all those, like, negative thoughts and, you know what I mean? Almost like evil spirits, like, just sitting in that. And, like, letting it consume you and let it get deeper and dig deeper into your heart. And, like, then your negative thoughts start pouring in and they hurt even more. And it's like, it's almost like you're just wounding yourself. And then you gotta flip on the switch. And that switch for me is turning that around and saying, you know, I'm grateful for the commitment that I made to myself. I'm grateful for my purpose and the commitment that I made to my purpose. And I'm grateful to Jah and the commitment that I made to serving my purpose. And then the prayer on top of it to just bring that all together, and then asking for help. And even if that's just asking like your ancestors for help, asking your close relatives, like deceased relatives, for help, asking your ascended masters, asking Jah, or like I like to ask, I love asking Jesus for help. Yahuwah, I love that name. Yahuwah, I love that presence. And I'll be like, Yahuwah, please help me to be closer to Jah. And honestly, it brings me peace. It does. And the great thing about healing and the fun thing about it is like what I've already said it, but asking for like praying for healing, praying for insight, praying to become closer to your heart, praying for peace, and praying for love. All of those things can lead you exactly where I ended up tonight, which is experiencing something uncomfortable. Because sometimes in order to get to this space of love, you have to get through the crap that's blocking it. You know, like it's a great representation is like, if you're using the analogy of your heart as like your physical heart is like, let's say, where all that love is. It's the heart center. When you've had like pain, you know, it's like then you've had to build up protection around that heart. So in order to get to it, first you have to get through the protection. But in order to get through that protection, you have to heal that pain. Because it's like the spirit is protecting you from something that it feels is real in the moment, even though it's from the past. So Mr. Wilson talks about that in the book also. But, you know, it's like, so part of the healing is that. It's like, you need to heal the wounds in order to get closer to your essence. And again, that's like what the aim is for the work that I do and the sage in me. That's the goal. Like, the goal isn't that a session will be hard or painful, but the goal is that healing will occur to bring you closer to your heart space, closer to Jah, closer to like your purpose, closer to your authenticity, closer to your heart, so that you're sitting in your heart. And when you're sitting in your heart and you're living in your heart and you're living in love and you're living in that authenticity and you're living in your purpose, then like you can start to experience like real joy and like real fulfillment and like real connection to everything that is, to like the universe, Jah, God, Creator, all it is. It's like, that's the goal. Like, that's the goal. And it's like right here, you know, in my hands. I like feel it there. And I love that. That's the goal. I'm going to link my website in the description. If you want to reach out, you can reach out. I just really pray that this can reach anybody and everybody who needs to hear like any little part of this, you know, and that it can help somebody, because this has been helping me, and that's why I needed to share it. Because even though it's like tremors, it's like last year was an earthquake for me, and a lot of things fell. A lot of old programming, buildings, structures, whatever, like mental structures, ideologies, whatever, I don't know if that's the right word, but a lot of things crumbled, and it was painful, and I didn't know if I'd make it through. And then finally, like, I flipped the switch, and now I'm having aftershock tremors. Like, that's genuinely what it feels like, kind of. And like the aftershock is like, hold on, wait, these things need to like crumble all the way, you know? And it's like, this stitch needs to get bigger so that you can put foundation in for a bigger, better, stronger house. Something like that. I like that analogy. I like the analogy of a ball bouncing for the experience of shifting into a higher consciousness. Because it's like, the first time the ball falls, have you ever experienced that? Where you suddenly are like, you're like, oh, this is amazing. What's going on? Like, what am I experiencing? Because it's like a higher level of consciousness. Like, you have shifted into a higher paradigm. You know, the next paradigm, you're shifting into it. And then all of a sudden you get popped back into the old paradigm, your regular reality that you're used to. And you're like, what just happened? And then the ball has to bounce all the way back up. And then it comes back down and it bounces again. You're like, oh my God, this is the same feeling I had before, but back to reality again. But then the thing about the ball is it's not going to go quite as high, so it'll come down sooner. And then the bounces take a little longer, right? So it's like on the ground for a little bit longer. So like you're experiencing that reality shift and you're like, oh my God, here again, it's like a lens shift where all of a sudden like everything feels, looks, and seems different and brighter. And it's just like, it's like real. It's like, whoa, this is, oh my God. And you start to notice like, oh my God, this is that same feeling. I've had this feeling multiple times now. But then the ball just goes bop, 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 and then you're in a new paradigm. So I like the ball bouncing for shifting into higher consciousness. But the earthquake tremor, that earthquake tremor though, It kind of makes sense for whatever this is. I don't know how I would describe it though. Is it like something to do with like a part of the healing journey? I don't know. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully it doesn't have to be like an earthquake for people. Hopefully it could just be something. Hopefully it could just be a little shaky. But it's like, hey, if you have like, if you're holding on, that's why like it's good to practice like non-attachment, because if you're holding on too tightly to the way things are, to the way you see things, then like you're basically forcing the world, the universe, and Jah to crumble what you have by force, because you're not allowing it to shift, which is something that so many people do. So there's no shame in it. Humans have a really hard time accepting change and allowing it, and surrendering. Like it's something that's hard for a lot of people, not just you, not just me. If it's hard for you. But so that one, I think the earthquake is that's a good one, because it's like, yeah, there's going to be some aftershocks. I remember in New Jersey there was an earthquake last year. No way. First time I ever experienced an earthquake in Jersey, because the first time there was ever an earthquake in Jersey, I was on the trampoline. I didn't feel it. So I had no idea it happened. I was a little kid. But last year, I'm pretty sure, was it last year? I think so. There was an earthquake, and it was scary. And then it was scary. And every aftershock after that, instantly I popped into fight or flight mode, like, gotta make sure everybody gets out of the house. I'm like, oh my God, it's happening. But what's funny is that after the aftershock ended, I was just like, darn it, I wish I enjoyed it more. Like, it's not every day you get to experience a safe earthquake, but you don't know it's safe, right? So, but either way, so the aftershock, it's like, it's gonna keep getting lighter and spreading out through time to the point that eventually it's gonna be null. Like, I won't even notice it. So it's that same it's like the parabolas, or it's like it comes down and it just gets closer and closer and closer to zero, and then the other one's just the opposite, like comes over and just goes up till it's like infinite, and you was like, okay, well, like 0 on the y-axis and then 0 on the x-axis, whatever. So it's kind of like, I see it like that, and then it's just like, well, now I'm just on a new reality. And the funny thing is, you kind of forget the old experience. Like, at least not everybody does, but that's what I noticed. Like, I can think back to like the way that I felt, let's say when I was in my teens, when like all this started, but I can hardly like put myself in those shoes. I know I was like in a lot of pain, and I couldn't imagine going back and like stepping into that now. Like, it wouldn't be possible for me to do that, honestly. Like, to step back to where I was, like, I wouldn't even say like I couldn't handle it. It's just like, it just wouldn't be possible. So I have a lot of like appreciation for my younger self for like making it. And right, one other thing I was thinking about with the whole like suffering and silence and thing, it's like just a side note, but that's something that was in my programming from childhood. So, the fact that it's such an old program, like, it's so dear to my heart almost, like, which kind of goes, yeah, it's like really close to my heart. So it's like, they were all like, it was the first layer, or like it was one of the first layers, and then there were more layers on top. So I spent a lot of time breaking down the layer, and And now I'm getting to that one where I'm like, yeah, it's like I'm trying to work on that too. So, you know, you're not alone. You can find support. There's a lot of different ways to find support, and I'd be happy to help anybody who wants to talk to someone where, like, you know what you're gonna get. You know, because sometimes for me, like, reaching out to someone I don't know for assistance can be hard. But you hear me, you hear the way I talk, like, this is how I talk. So if you do want to contact me, like, this is what you're gonna get. Otherwise, just reach out to people you know, reach out to people you trust, reach out to people that are, like, positive role models in your life. And if you reach out to someone and they try to tell you, you know, that it's okay that you feel that way and that everybody feels like that and it's not that big of a deal, which happened to me last year, just go to the next person. Just swipe left on that. Because it's really not helpful to hear that. Yeah, that's about it for this one. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being present. Thank you for being alive. Thank you for choosing to stay. Thank you for committing to this life with all of us, even though it's crazy sometimes, and even though it's challenging. You know, there's a lot of beauty to be found, and there's even beauty to be found in the hardest moments. So, Ja, I pray that anybody watching this video right now, that you can hold them close to your heart so that they can also feel peace, safety, healing, and love. And I pray that they can feel you with them anytime that they are feeling alone or like they are lost. I'm really wishing you guys the best, and I'm sending you a lot of love, and I hope that you're feeling it, and I hope that, you know, I hope that you take it with you and you allow any of the hard moments to shape you and just surrender into it and commit to the experience. I love you guys. And I really, really, really wish you the best. Alright. I'm out.